this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Donna, would you please call the roll? DeLaRosa. Here. IV.B.
Here.
Bratton.
Here.
Kenwood.
Here.
Mueller. Vera. Weinstock. Here.
As stated on the signs posted at the entrances to the District Administrative Center and this meeting room, all visitors are expected to maintain social distancing space of at least 3 feet at all times while in the building. All visitors and participants must wear a mask that covers their face and nose at all times per health department recommendations. Anyone in need of a mask break may step outside and return to the meeting when we are still in progress. Behavior that does not comply with the social distancing or mask requirements or noise which disrupts the ability to conduct board business in an orderly and efficient manner will result in a warning followed by a directive to leave the District Administrative Center. Failure to comply immediately and cooperatively with the directive to leave will result in the involvement of law enforcement officials.
Okay. I'd like to ask Gilda Ross and our student liaisons to come up.
If they'll walk up around the tables up and come right up by President Weinstock and myself. I'd like to welcome them. 2 weeks ago, we got caught with a tornado warning. And these students, juniors and seniors, were adherent to safety first. And so let me turn it over to Gilda Ross. These are student liaisons who represent student body during the board governance process. Gilda, give us an overview.
Thank you. Deja vu all over again. So I'm so glad that these students had come to see this meeting tonight. They have volunteered, they've been selected or elected by administrators in their own building to come and attend meetings. In the past, we've had two students from each grade level, 2 juniors and 2 seniors. This year we expanded it to 3 juniors and 3 seniors from every school. The way that it works is that the juniors rotate through the 4 different committees and the seniors select one committee to follow through all year. So I know last week you had the students.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we asked a couple questions. How many are second year people? Couple of you, okay. So here are the questions. You guys are smart students, you gotta remember these. Okay, first question is, what building do you represent, what grade? Okay, and then one activity that you're involved in. We know you're busy, we're just curious what you're enjoying, what you're hoping to participate in, or what you are participating in. And then for the second year students, just highlight one thing that you learned last year by attending some of the committee meetings. All right, your name, your building, activity you enjoy, and if you're a second year student, what you learned from last year. Is it Nellie? Natalie.
Hi, my name is Natalie Herrera. I'm a junior at Glenbard North, and one activity I'm involved in is speech jam.
Hi, my name is Matthew Naughton, and I'm a senior at Glenbard East. One activity I'm involved in is the tennis team. And something I learned about last year was just how much work really goes into making sure everything functions properly.
Hi, I'm Juliana, and I'm a junior, and I go to Glenbard East. And this year, I can't wait for mock trial to start up again. Hi, I'm Lauren McDougall. I'm a junior at Glenbard West, and I'm very excited for my first tennis match on Thursday.
Hi, I'm Catherine Moses. I go to East and I'm a junior, and I'm in the chess club.
Hi, I'm Dee Fan and I'm a senior at Glenbard West, and I participate in Asian Club and Tea Club. And one thing that I learned from last year is like I know how the school function like financially and properly.
Hello, my name is Jose Ramos. I'm a junior at Glenbard North. And one thing I'm excited for this year is the marching band season.
Thank you, Jose, and thank you, students. Again, really appreciate you devoting your time. Gilda, thanks for your leadership in coordinating this. And I just want to highlight the importance of speaking up. Okay? I know a lot of times we listen and observe, but You're representing the student body, their voice, so do not be bashful. And again, thank you in advance for your service, attending committees and participating. Let's give these students a hand.
It's always nice when we can see our students here, so thank you, students, for making that effort tonight. I'm sorry about the tornado, but it wasn't really responsible. Next, we are moving to our adoption of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 19th, 2021 regular meeting, the July 19th, 2021 closed session meeting, and the minutes of the August 9th, 2021 regular meeting and the August 9th, 2021 closed session meeting as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any corrections? Donna, would you call the roll, please?
Eby,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Kenwood,
Yes.
Mueller, DeLaRosa,
Yes.
Weinstein.
Yes. The board committees did not meet except for policy committee. I'm not sure who's giving the report. Martha, are you giving the report tonight?
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the policy committee looked at, we got through 5 policy procedure tonight, and only 2 of those policies will move forward with the board. And
Okay, thank you, Martha. Board members, are there any other reports? Seeing none, we will move to public participation for agenda-related items only. Speakers are asked to fill out a public participation form and submit it prior to speaking to Mrs. Gastel, who's sitting right there. You're asked to identify yourselves and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Personal complaints about staff members, students, or other members of the Glenbard community must be handled privately with the appropriate Glenbard representative. Please know it is not the practice of the board or administration to respond to your comments and questions at this time. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board?
Good
Bill
evening.
Graham.
My name is Bill Graham. Does this work? Is this on?
Yes.
At the prior meeting, I asked each board member, by the way, I want to thank you for announcing in the meeting that there's a mass break. I think that's a great idea, and I hope the students and teachers will be allowed that same privilege that we are. At a prior meeting, I asked each board member to assure residents that employees are monitored for respiratory distress, which is common with masking, especially with the increase of CO2 in the lungs. Lacking such routine monitoring of each board member can be credited, the board member can be credited with harm for the result. These comments really relate to the nursing contract that's on your agenda that you're going to approve. And I encourage you to take a close look at it, because it makes no references to any issues related to monitoring, masks, responding, training. Voluntary use of masks is exempt from regulations generally, but mandatory use of masks, there are regulations that have to be complied with. I'm not sure I've seen that you have been communicating that, but there has to be a medical evaluation of each person required to wear a mask. Has to be annual training and fit testing. Facial hair, like I have, is not allowed because it prevents a proper fit. Mask must be disposed when soiled, but at least daily. Any user must remove the mask if they experience problems such as difficulty breathing, dizziness, or irritation. Just as with sports participation, where parents of a student sign a waiver, school staff retains some responsibility for monitoring the health of each student and intervening when appropriate. District employees and the board have potential liability for harm to students from unsafe use of masks. Each board member has a sworn obligation to become aware of applicable law and regulation and not contravene it. Each also has an obligation not to follow legal guidance, regulation, or law. Not to follow illegal guidance. You're responsible for all residents, not just parents and children. I asked you to include this letter with your minutes, and I've included a couple references from Department of Health Security, as well as standard practice in managing mass programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board?
That's it, Kevin.
Hi, my name is Bob Dobus. I'm a longtime resident and former employee, well, actually kind of current employee still of Lombard, the Lombard District. I wanted to thank the board. I know that in Lombard South we have another social worker, and thank you. I know we had some funds that were given to us for that, so hopefully that can continue for a number of years. Last year, the district spent over $15 million on capital improvement contracting of services. In the last 9 years, D87 has spent over $120 million on facilities upgrades. In the last 12 years, the net assets of the district have increased by almost $150 million, and that is with depreciation accounted for. Every year, the district pays off at least $4 million in debt early, and there is one little line in the financial report that says that the district has over $25 million in the bank account to pay off future debt. Both the asset and the liability have been wiped off of the book, so it's really kind of hard to find. But I mean, it's fiscally responsible, so that's a good thing. Another $9+ million above budget, though, goes to building improvements every year. And in my opinion, every year, kind of a little shell game goes on with moving excess funds into one of only two funds that are allowable, debt repayment or capital projects. I think that it is time to see if we can do something in the accounting work to spend more money on our kids. $4 million a year would allow us to run at least 150 to 200 more classes. Lowering class sizes and hiring more teachers. I know there's space issues and all sorts of things, but I think that you'll find that this is one thing that the research has proven to increase student performance and student scores. And it will work a lot better than the 50% lowest grade and no academic consequences for cheating. If we can't find a way to hire more teachers and lower the class sizes, then instead of putting more and more money into the buildings, maybe we can drop the taxes a little bit, I don't know. But we don't need to throw money around on bricks and pay off low interest debt. I know the plan is to continue this use of taxpayer money for another 15 to 20 years, but how about spending it on things that can really make a difference for our kids? And I know some people who have some really great ideas, so thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the board? Seeing no one else, I'm focusing. Sorry, you're hidden.
Good evening. My name is Cedric Crenshaw. I would like to address the school year update in the agenda. I noticed that the district is using the PCR tests. Is that correct? I wanted to know if the district is informing the public that the FDA actually removed the emergency use authorization for the PCR tests because they do not work. They don't identify infections. They cannot detect infectious viruses. They only detect pieces of viruses. Could be any virus. In fact, the PCR test can't distinguish between COVID and the flu. Anybody notice there weren't any flu cases last year? Rarely any. The PCR test is easily manipulated by turning up or down the cycle threshold rate. That's why we had so many false positives or so-called asymptomatics. These people didn't have COVID at all. So I'm just concerned if you are informing parents about this, because when some of their children are given a positive test and they're quarantined, I noticed that there are still no provisions for any live streaming opportunities for students to even be just exposed to instruction in the classroom. They're at home, they might have some tutoring opportunities, but there's no instruction available to them. So they could very well be taking a fake test that gives them fake positive results, and then they're sent home for 10 or 14 days with no instruction. And lastly, I see that you're giving out info about COVID vaccination clinics. Are you providing information at these clinics about the vaccine injuries as well as the deaths from these shots? Are you providing any information about treatment options that are available, that are put out by groups like America's Frontline Doctors and others, so that we can reduce the fear surrounding COVID? And lastly, the FDA, by so-called approving the Pfizer shots, has committed fraud because there are no long-term studies for any of these shots. In fact, the hundreds of millions of people that got, or roughly 150 million people in this country that got the shots, are in the long-term study, whether they're aware of it or not. So I'm just concerned, are you really providing informed consent when it comes to these PCR tests, when it comes to these COVID vaccination clinics, and the so-called approval of the Pfizer shots? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the board? Seeing no one else, I'm closing public participation, and we will move to our action items.
Yes, there are 4 items. The first is our usual movement in the HR office of licensed support staff positions. Next are donations. Any donation of equal value greater than $500 is reviewed by the superintendent and recommended to the Board of Education. Robert Deach, $500 for D.D. Family Fund at Glenbard South. Mulcare Financial, $500 for the boys basketball program at West. I can thank them for their donations. Educational tours, we have one West field hockey team in early September for a tournament in Missouri. That's noted there. And then lastly, the transfer of funds, a resolution to transfer funds from education funds to capital projects, $4 million is noted there.
The administration recommends approval of consent items 1 through 4. Do I have a motion to approve items 1 through 4 of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there an item anyone wishes to pull? Any discussion? Donna, would you call the roll, please?
Friend,
Yes.
Kenwood,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
DeLaRosa, IV.B,
Yes.
Weinstock.
Yes.
Superintendent's recommendations. We have invoices. Usually these are vetted through the finance committee and action taken earlier in the meeting. This time they're part of the superintendent's rec. From the education fund, from the operation maintenance fund, transportation, a total of $2,553,505.85.
Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution titled Resolution Approving the August 23, 2021 invoices for payment in the amount of $2,553,505.85?
So moved.
Any discussion? Donna, would you call the roll, please?
Kenwood,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
DeLaRosa, IV,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Weinstock.
Yes.
Next, we appreciate our partnership with paramedic services within our community at football games. I'd like to thank Mr. Chapman for his coordination with our local public safety officials, Carroll Stream Fire Department, Glenbard North, Village of Lombard for Glenbard East and for Glenbard South. La Woodridge Fire District works in concert with administration at the home games to provide protection services.
Okay, with me now, this is a long motion. Do I have a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreements for paramedic services at football games with the Carroll Stream Fire Protection District at Glenbard North football games at the rate of $150 per hour, with the Village of Lombard at Glenbard East football games at the rate of $120 per hour, and with the Lyle Woodridge Fire Protection District at Glenbard South football games at the rate of $140 an hour.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Donna?
Mueller.
Yes.
DeLaRosa.
Yes.
IV.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Kenwood.
Yes.
Weinstock.
Yes. And nursing contract.
Yes, we've used My Life as a private third-party nursing contract. Information is noted there. I don't know if Mrs. Cope or Mr. Chapman can add any information to the recommendation.
Absolutely. This is a nursing provider in the area, My Life, and obviously they're switching names. We've worked with them for many years. I believe we originated in 2017. They're asking for the new contract, the change in names and the changing rate. The rates did go up, but obviously we need kind of backup plans for our nurses. So whether it be subs or a very high need student that needs nursing while in the school day. So that's where our partnership would come in with My Life when needed.
Thank you, Janet. Do I have a motion to approve the 2021-2022 My Life VIIA Team Select Home Care Contract to provide nursing services at a rate of $61.75 per hour?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Just a couple of questions. The memo didn't have, what is the total spend on this that we expect out of this? I didn't see that in the memo, and I didn't see any increase.
Come on back up, Ms. Hood.
What's the increase that
They originally started with us with LPNs at $40 an hour and then RNs at $50 an hour. And there's been a small increment over time. So right now then we're up to that $61.75 in that window. As far as what does that spend look like? This is an as-needed contract, so we're really not sure right now. We need it in place in case we have nurses out or student needs where we need nursing. Some of that's in a little bit of flux right now with COVID and higher need students being more frequently considering homebound and other things with medical. I'm not entirely sure what the anticipated spend between that and calling for subs. We don't really have a measure.
Do you know what we spent last year?
I could pull that together, working with Mr. Chambers, but I don't know that number off the top of my head.
I mean, do you think this is under $10,000 a year spend, or?
With this agency, yes, I do.
Okay.
That's a guess. That being said, if we need them more.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or discussion? Donna, would you call the roll, please?
DeLaRosa. Yes. EB.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Kenwood.
Yes.
Mueller.
Yes.
Weinstock.
Yes. And then Dr. Larson.
Yes, donations less than 500, I just noted by Superintendent Award, Friends of the Glenside Library, $200 for the Glenbard Parent Series. It's exciting to have such a variety of donations in the community for GPS. Well, we're back. We started August 11th. So excited to have our students back in school and activities, clubs. Just want to highlight, we're going to hear from our teams from the buildings in a little bit. It's going to be exciting. Just want to highlight the number of individuals in the building that worked through the summer. We had 600 staff come on August 9th, but we had throughout the whole summer tireless teams working, our tech specialists, IT department, our building custodians and staff, just the staff, office staff in each of the buildings as they registered students, et cetera. Just want to thank them for the hard work and preparation for a great launch this school year. Open houses, we all have them the same night, September 2nd. Parents and guardians will attend. They'll hear from building leadership. They'll have a chance to connect with each of the teachers as well as the counseling staff. And a great way to kick off the school year. Sometimes the students don't hear the story completely correctly. They can hear it that night from the building administration as well as teachers in the classroom, and obviously curriculum information is shared that night as well. I'd like to thank again Gilda and her GPS team for coordinating and preparing a great docket of events this year. We have a couple coming in the next couple weeks. Financial aid workshop, discovering the best college fit at the best price at 7 p.m. August 25th. Again, this one's via Zoom. Secondly, loving, affirming, and supporting all children to thrive, gender, and identity. Conversation at noon and 7 p.m. August 26th. And then social skills and anxiety solutions for the early child. Start strong with Julie Halron at noon and at 7 on August 31st. Gilda knows how to wear out our speakers when they come. They're speaking morning, noon, and night. So thank you, Gilda, for arranging the speakers. And again, check on the website for all of the times and dates to get those right. Congratulations to Glenmore West graduate John Goodman, earning the rank of Eagle Scout. Each Eagle Scout is tasked with an important project, and this one's interesting to me. He built a string-based rack to hold up the bases. Okay, that's like building something that can handle an earthquake with those heavy bases. So thanks to John for investing in the music program, and obviously at his high school at West. We have Freedom of Information requests. I'd like to read through these. There are two from Betsy Canianis, Dale, both on August 5th. The first had to do with background information on board members, and the second had to do with information regarding district liability insurance. The district has responded to those two requests. August 6th, we have Kevin Tomshaw requesting information regarding signed contracts for postage meter machines. District has responded to that request. August 10th, we received a request from SEIU Local 73 Martha Galagos regarding employment information of employee representing Local 73. The district has responded to that request. August 10th, we received from Sandra Crenshaw requesting the video recording of my address to the staff. The district has responded to that request. August 10th, we received a request from Kurt Micah regarding communications and memos of understanding between the District 87 administration and the board and representative of GEA regarding live streaming of classes. District has responded to that request. We received two from Grace Daigle, August 10th, August 12th. First one regarding attendance of board members at the policy committee meeting, August 9th, and other subsequent meetings. District has responded to that request. Also, a second request, requesting grade information shared with students. District has responded to that request. Then we have two requests from Marty Boyd, August 12th, regarding surveys sent to Glenbard West students, and district has responded to that request. And then a second request, copy of the agreement between D87 and the University of Illinois for the Shield COVID-19 testing information. And district has responded to that request. August 13th, from Linda Samuda, requesting information regarding enrollment numbers for D87 from 2021 through, 2019 through 2021 information has been provided. That concludes the superintendent's.
Thank you, Dr. Larson. Next up is a discussion of how the school year started. We're going to hear from our principals.
Yes, we wanted to share with such a great beginning, and there was a lot of work, obviously, nimble and fluid work through the summer as we transitioned and looked at health guidance, looked at the metrics, looked at the opportunity to conduct a strong summer school program and transition into a new school year, and a lot of planning, a lot of work. Just want to thank the building principals and their teams, and a lot of onboarding for students that many of them haven't been in our building in a year. And also just post-entry, a lot of social emotional support and guidance and relationship building. And so tonight we want to highlight the good work that's been done as we, in our second week as we've launched school. We thought we'd hear from the important leaders in the field. And who's first? Dr. Metzig, you're first? All right.
All right, I was told to make sure to put the microphone. Sorry. Thank you, Dr. Larson, President Weinstock and the Board of Education. I'm glad to be here with my principal colleagues to share about some of the information that's been taking place at the beginning of the school year. I have, is this me? I just have this one slide here with 4 talking points that I want to go through. And number one kind of speaks for itself. Opening day was great. It was so nice, first day of school, to have students back in the building. There was a lot of nervous anticipation. It felt back like a normal school year, like we had 2 years ago. A lot of work went into preparing for the school year. We know we had some changes just a week before regarding the IV.A, IV.B mandates. So some last minute changes took place. We also did some orientation work for our freshman students and for transfer students. We have a number of student leaders that ran a freshman orientation program. Gave tours, broke the students up into 10 to 12 students at one time, gave tours, talked to the kids about how to be successful in high school, and did what we could to help prepare our freshmen, the class of 2025, to feel comfortable and safe on day one. My second bullet point, parents and students and staff supporting and appreciating safety protocols. This is something I think is important to know. Our students have been absolutely fantastic about the masks. It has not been an issue at Glenbard North High School. I really appreciate them and their cooperativeness. We also had to make some changes to our lunch periods to keep kids a little bit separated, and our students also enrolled with that as well. They've been very open and appreciative to the safety mandates. It also goes to the parents. A lot of parents that I talked to at Glenbard North High School were very appreciative of the safety protocols that were in place. They're nervous about their kids coming into a building. They appreciate the masks requirement that we have. They're very thankful. Actually, so far, it's been 3 weeks, and also even the time leading up to that, I've not had a single Glenbard North parent contact me who was upset about a mask mandate. So overall, a lot of support around that concept there. Number 3, extracurricular activities. Our numbers are strong. Right now, we have 524 students in an athletic program, a fall athletic program. About 1/4 of a Glenbard North population is involved in a sports program right now. Activities didn't quite start. Some of them started, but some of them will be starting over the next couple of weeks, so we don't quite have numbers there. But based on interest that I'm hearing from our teachers, I don't think it'll be long before our participation numbers are back where they were over a year ago, back in that range. I don't believe it's going to be a gradual, eventually we're going to catch up to where we were 2 years ago. We might be there this year. Fall numbers look fantastic. This past weekend, I wanted to touch a little bit on this. This was a kind of a nice moment. This past Saturday, we had what would normally be our booster pancake breakfast. We turned it into a booster barbecue. Went from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock so everybody could eat outside instead of having a pancake breakfast inside. Teams did scrimmages out in the field and then had an opportunity to meet with the coach and the coach meet with the parents and so forth there to watch. And Mr. Bowser was there, our assistant principal for athletics, who had the opportunity to answer a lot of questions. He had a lot of questions from particularly football parents the most about safety, about close contact, about COVID-related situations. And one of the things he was able to share with them is that we did have a first week of school, we had a positive case on our football program. We had a positive case there. And there's a lot of close contact there. But based on the guidelines and the criteria that you follow for close contact and quarantine, 2 students had to be quarantined, but everybody else was either vaccinated or asymptomatic, which based on the guidelines, which means they could continue to participate and they didn't have to be quarantined. The other nice thing that we had going on at Glenbard North between 10 and 2, our barbecue was between 10 and 2, we had a vaccine clinic taking place in our parking lot. So as he's talking to the parents, many parents and families that were not vaccinated went to the clinic and were able to get vaccinated right there on campus. So it was very convenient. That worked out really well. And finally, my last slide there focuses on our teaching staff aligning grading parameters to the new board policy, which took place. They did a lot of work in those first 2 days of school, those institute days. Now the concepts spelled out in the new policy really were nothing new to our staff. These are things that we've been talking about for 10 years or so now. We've been doing book reads. We brought in speakers over the years who are experts on grading practices. And then again, also the past 3 years, the policy committee the grading committee had been meeting regularly on this, to come up with this policy. And I just want to say it's nice to have a policy in place that not only aligns with research best practices, but also helps bring another level of consistency for our students and parents. So that's what I have for Glenbard North. We can go on first before. Okay, next up is my esteemed colleague, Jessica Santillo. Go.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight, and I'm excited to have the privilege and honor to be able to share with you news from our Raider side of town here of our back-to-school events. So to start, we have colorful pictures here to be able to really, hopefully, encompass the spirit that we've really felt over the last few weeks. The back-to-school spirit has really been palpable through the halls, through the community, on the fields as you heard tonight. So wanted to talk to you about a few points here. First, things that happened before school even started. So starting in July, we had a committee of teachers and administrators that partnered together to welcome our freshmen, recognizing that it had been possibly since 6th grade, since they had had any kind of normal school year, wanting to make sure they felt very comfortable coming into school and know that they really had a home in the Raider community. So we reached out to every home, as you see from pictures here. We had t-shirts made for all the freshmen, but along with that, everyone in the community received the same t-shirt because we're trying to send a message of unity and togetherness through the school year as we return. Really a focus of Raider pride. So that was exciting because again, teacher drawn, teacher created, teacher fostered on going to homes and making people feel comfortable and welcome. Back to school week was another thing that happened before school even started. That week of August 2nd through the 6th was extremely busy, as it was, I think, in all of the buildings. And that week I was able to meet with our students that came in. So I kind of inserted myself as new principal into that rotation just to try to get to know some kids and have them really think about how they can make this their own school community, feel some student ownership, and have some student voice. So we had over 750 students attend that event, and we met with students in addition after that. We had also that week a freshman family night. So we invited parents to come in, and we're able to do that in a safe way in rotations, where they heard directly from students and from teachers who gave their time that night to answer questions and make those families feel very comfortable. You know, as we relaunched this year, again, it was really about building those relationships and really going back to what Raider Pride means as a famous saying or slogan at South. And for a long time, there were the 3 R's. There was being ready, being responsible, and being respectful. And our team talked a lot about what we've learned over the past year and a half and what people need moving forward in order to really be fully engaged and get to that deep learning and get to that higher critical thinking is the foundation of relationships. So we added a 4th R to relationships here. So that was a common message throughout. And so the part there you see in the Wordle was what those 750 students shared with me on a blank open page to say, what does it mean to be a Raider? And they could have wrote anything, which I was a little nervous about, but in the end, it was beautiful what they actually wrote. You know, when you see that when they answer in their own words with their own marker that what it means to be a Raider is to be patient, to be respectful, to be enthusiastic, to be kind, to fight for what's right, stand up for others who can't speak for themselves. I mean, it was really, really motivational, and I think it was motivational to them, to one another, but also to our colleagues and our staff as they read those words from our students. We also did, on the first week of school, the first day was very exciting. We had our new band director offer to have the band be involved in kind of creating that and fostering that school spirit. So our drum line played in the halls in the morning as students arrived, which was something very different and new for them, but especially after the last year and a half. That was very well received and exciting. We also had cheerleaders and dance outside gathering people, so it just had that kind of contagious spirit as you're hoping people to get excited to come back to learn. On Thursday, we had an alternate schedule where we allowed for a school-wide activity to, again, really try to build those relationships and build that common experience that will build culture. So all students participate in their class. This activity that you see there where it says Raider Pride and the 4 R's, it's hard to see in this picture, but every letter has the signature of every single student and staff member in our building. And then underneath that answers the question, what does it mean to be a Raider to you? So again, just that setting that foundation of relationships so that we can move forward and get into the deeper learning. And then of course, there's nothing better than your admin team making pancakes for the staff, which is what the other picture is there. When we talk about other things that are going on, we also last Friday, as far as really jumping into athletics and activities, we were able to launch a activity and athletic fair on the 20th, which was a pretty big undertaking for the very beginning of school and everyone coming back right away. But all students went to that first for the first half of lunch, cycled through, and it was really, really exciting to see seniors, juniors, sophomores, obviously freshmen, who we normally gear these activities to, but all of our students needed a reignited, reconnected to what we offer at South and find out, don't take things for granted, right? Sign up, get involved. They let things pass them by before they were signing up. So things like STEM Club had an additional 35 signatures to it, to everything there, to gymnastics and so on. So it was very exciting to see that happen. That was on Friday. And then that evening we had our blue and white night, similar to what Dr. Mensick was just sharing. We also brought all our fall sports in. Numbers are up, they're going well, we're recruiting by the day. So it's very exciting to feel that energy. I had a number of parents come up to me and say, thank you for having us here, and we never wanted you to not be here. We wanted to have you back, we're excited to have you here. We just want to maintain safety and keep everyone moving forward in a healthy way. So that was very exciting on Friday night. Finally, we will have our teams really focus on, I kind of been talking about this, about the deep learning, and as we talk about our deeper goals here, this year our teachers and staff have spent a lot of time thinking about their work in their PLC teams, really spending time thinking about the grading, thinking about how we can shift the conversation from points to learning, and really focus. That's really what this is all about, is how do we really stress the learning? How do we continually allow students to make sure that they're not giving up, that they keep pushing forward, and that the lesson here is perseverance. It's not quitting, it is not failure, but it's continuing to learn and grit, and that we believe in you. So those conversations have been rich, and they'll continue to work on that through their PLCs. So next up, my also esteemed colleague, Mr. Antoine
I
Anderson.
just want to mention, as Mr. Anderson, come on up, Mr. Anderson, I have I don't know how this was pulled off, but I visited South last week, and I asked to be the new band director, and we go in there, and the students play. I've already learned a pep tune for Ohio State. Are you kidding me? It's only been 1 week. So, those of you who don't know, Jessica went to Ohio State, and she told me that after we hired her.
All right, good evening. So thank you guys for providing me the opportunity to kind of report on what's been happening on the east side, as I like to call it. I'm going to echo some of the things that have already been shared. At Glenbard East, prior to the school year starting, I've got a myriad of pictures here, but I think these pictures better depict what happened more than what I can say. But on August 6th, that Friday, we did have an orientation for both our freshmen and sophomores, because our freshmen haven't been in the building, but many of our sophomores were remote last year as well. And so we had our link through mentors there to assist juniors and senior leaders throughout our building, helping to acclimate our freshmen and those sophomores that weren't in the building to our building. And those freshmen engaged in some large and small group activities throughout that day. They took a tour of the building, hopefully to get them a little bit better and more comfortable with East. And you can see here, it was a fun day for them. In small groups, they were dressed up in different costumes, they had different themes for the team. So it's something that our students really, really enjoyed. Then at the same time, on that Monday, the first Monday, August 2nd, because we know that just like the freshman students might have some anxiety, sometimes their parents have some anxiety as well. So we held a freshman parent night on that Monday, where myself and our other administrators were just able to speak to some of our parents, just to make them aware of what the school year would look like, what the very next day would also look like, because those freshmen were coming into the building to get their IV, to get their PE locked and so forth. So we just wanted to communicate to them that they can trust us and stay away, because those students will be okay in our hands moving forward. Then, for the start of the school year, as it says here, we got off to a great start. We're off to a great start. It is great to have our students and staff back in the building. Monday, August 9th, we had our staff back in the building for our back to school presentation, first with Dr. Larson and then myself. Then we decided to engage in a community team building activity with our staff, because at the end of the year last year, they talked about the need to connect with one another. So I've got two dynamic staff members, Mueller and Donna Slusher, that do a lot of different things with student groups, they decided to lead an activity similar to that with our staff as well. So you'll see in the field house, we had close to 200 staff members spread out, engaged in different community building games, small group talk, just to build relationships amongst each other, because we need to know each other if we're expecting us to know our students as well. And then on that very first day, not loud enough, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And then on that very first day of school, we welcomed our students into the building, our band, our cheerleaders, our dance team, we're all out welcoming students, and you can see the smile on their faces, because they were also excited to be there as well. So it was a great start to the school year. And so for those first 3 days, what we decided to do is be intentional with building relationships and building community. So we took a pause on diving into content. And so this was our plan over the first 3 days, where each class, each period had a theme in terms of what we were going to do. So you can see there at the bottom, you can see it in small print, different groups created a welcoming message. Started with myself. We did an all-school get to know you survey, and that data was then disaggregated so that every teacher received the information for the students that were in their class. So we got a lot of positive feedback from our staff and students, because it allowed them to somewhat ease into the school year before diving into content. And what we've tried to hammer home and reiterate is our motto, is what we use with our PBIS, is just take care of yourself, take care of others, and if everyone is doing those two things, then as a result, we're taking care of ease. And so we've got t-shirts that display that as well. In addition, things that we're excited about are equity work, specifically our grading practices, and you've heard that already from our esteemed colleagues as well. And then with our extracurricular and athletics, we've got about 600 students that are participating in our fall sports thus far. And like North, like South, we also had a Red and Black Community Night this past Friday. So it's great to see the community come out and support our fall athletes. You can see that they're gearing up and excited about the school year and the upcoming athletic season. Our first football game is this upcoming Friday. And so we're excited to have students and fans in the stands. And then like everyone else, September 2nd is our open house. We're excited to have our parents and family and community members in our building communicating, seeing our teachers, and getting feedback and input from them specifically. So we are excited about the school year. We're looking forward to a productive school year, and the east side should be raring to go moving forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Monahan, who will share with us about the memo.
Sure.
No, I think it was just double checking.
I learn from the mistakes of others. The one thing I'll note is that I'm really excited to work with these other principals. I feel really proud to work with them, and I'm going to carry along some themes that they've talked about already. This picture is a picture of our senior mentors, and we also have junior mentors there in the black t-shirts. These guys are trained up by two of our sponsors, Tina Shaw and Nessa Slawinski, who do an outstanding job getting them ready to help our incoming freshmen and our new students. They're around during the book buy, what used to be called the book buy, when students come into the building, learn the building, get their IDs, and they also assist freshman orientation and during the first few days of the school. I might note that on our very first day of school at around 10 o'clock in the morning, we did have a power outage that happened simultaneous to a really bad storm front coming our way, which made me really uptight, let's just say that. The reason I mention that at all is because it was remarkable to me, after not being really in the building with so many kids, how well our staff reacted and how well our students reacted. It was really exceptional to see Dr. Mensick talked about kids following rules and wanting to be a part of the solution to these types of problems, and that was a perfect example. I too have noticed that all of our students are following our mask requirement without issue. I too have not gotten not one single email or phone call objecting to wearing a mask as principal of Lombard West from any of our parents. To the contrary, I have gotten a number of comments, emails, phone calls, conversations that express just the opposite. They feel safe in having masks. So I will make a point of mentioning that. Some things that have been going on. We met with every single one of our classes freshman, sophomore, and junior to go over our protocols for the year, to talk about the values that are important to us at Club Bard West, and to take time really engaging with them about so many of the other things that are important related to relationships, related to things that are important at Club Bard West, and how we'd like them to work hard to get back on track after these last 18 months. I will note too that we had freshman orientation that connected students to the building. Can you hit that link, Peg? Sound?
Show off.
That's why he wanted to go last.
Well, all right, so those were kids coming into our building on the first day being greeted by our senior mentors, and so that's really important. That's something we've been doing for a long time. But, sorry. So that was freshman orientation the first few days. We have PBIS strategy, which is really the West way at Club Bard West. It's really something that we embed with our kids and talk about being respectful, about being involved, and about being successful, and the different things that go into those standards. And we take a lot of time with kids, and we do acknowledge them for doing those things. I want to point out that so much of the work that we do in the building comes through our professional learning community and our teacher teams, and we've got a lot on our plate this year. We've taken on that the grading protocol, which seems very expansive and big, but I would also agree that many of these practices have been in place with our teacher teams for some time. Really, to me, the grading protocols are really about clarity, about making learning visible to students, and making sure that we've got consistency among our teachers, something that's very important, and something that we've heard a lot about. We're preparing for open house right now and excited about our parents coming in. We have to make a couple of adjustments. Of course, we're not going to be bringing large groups of parents into the building, but we do see them coming in, and we're going to ask that they sort of limit to one parent, a student, and we think we're going to have a great night. I did want to point out two things that we've focused on and shown to our students and to our teachers. One is this Club Bard West Student Support Toolbox, which is really a collection of different supports that our teachers know about, all in one place that they can access and use as a reference point for assisting our students. And the other is this student-facing wellness resource document that's meant to help our students ensure that they know where to go for social-emotional concerns, for mental health concerns, things that are important. I will say again that it's very surprising to me to see how ready these kids are to come back to school, to normal school, where we've got 2,400 kids in the building. We have over 750 students sign up for athletics at Club Bard West this fall. That's nearly normal. And we don't track activities just yet because that's an ongoing thing throughout the year. We'll have those numbers at the end of the year, but we do anticipate just around 80% of our students being involved in activities or athletics at Club Bard West. And that's something that we'll hang our hat on and that we're really proud of, and something that is key to the success of any school, is making sure that you have lots of different activities for kids to really explore their passions and really get out there and connect with other young people, and to have many adult mentors that they can rely on. So thanks very much for having me up here. I'm going to turn it over to Directions Principal, Mr. Thomas Barlow.
Okay, so first, I have no knowledge on how to hold the mic. I don't know if I either hold it too close to my mouth or too far away. So I'm trying to get a good medium here. All right. So I would like to start by saying our first day felt hopeful. And the reason why I chose hopeful is because during our summer outreach, teachers and our staff at Directions kind of went out and they checked on these students, and they kind of walked into a lot of issues, right? With a lot of our parents dealing with things and a lot of our students dealing with things. So we were actually pretty apprehensive and pretty fearful that we weren't going to get as many students as we did. And the students that we did get, may not be in that kind of school mindset, but we were totally blown away. Not only did they show up, but they showed up ready to work. And a lot of our students asked us how can I get on Ingenuity? Am I close to graduating? What do I need to do in order to graduate that first term? And if I can't graduate that first term, that's okay, but I have something to work towards. So we were very, very excited. The staff was very, very eager to see students, and students felt missed. You heard that throughout our building, like, oh my God, they really missed us. Like, they really didn't have a life during the summer. They really missed us and wanted to see us. What we're really excited about in our building is integrating SEL into the curriculum. Most of the time, SEL is in the background. We know that we do it as teachers, but to put it in the forefront because it's important to integrate these students into schools as they normally are. We're really, really excited about that. And our focus was to kind of get those students into the building and transition them slowly, right? So our first day, we did a lot of discussion, a lot of SEL work. We actually did a survival test, and students really, really gravitated towards it. We're kind of in that honeymoon period right now to where these students don't really know other students. So they're quiet and they're attentive and they're ready to learn. So we're trying to kind of keep that honeymoon period going. So other than that, before I do leave, I would definitely like to say that every principal here, thank you. Like, oh my God. I mean, you're talking about supportive. They call, they find out if I need anything. And a special thank you to Dr. Monahan, because I had the pleasure of watching him lead for 2 years, and a lot of stuff stuck up here. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to this awesome lady, Dawn Langdon.
Thank you. I think I have to hold this mic because I talk too much with my hands or something. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the transition programs, if I could get it. There we go. So just a quick reminder on our transition programs. These are for our students that are between the ages of 18 and the year of their 22nd birthday, that have completed all 4 of their years of graduation requirements, however need continued support. So these are all special education students that need continued support to bridge their goals between school and adult life. So we actually have 3 different sites. We have our 2 community-based sites as well as our site at the College of DuPage. So when thinking about getting ready for the school year this year, actually when looking at our community-based sites, we had over half of our students that were registered for ESY that all did the 8-week program. So our students really only had about a 2-week break for summer. So that was wonderful to see, because it just kind of kept things going, and it was an opportunity for a lot of students to get into the building that maybe hadn't been in over a year. But we did offer parent and student tours, guided tours that they had at both of the sites, that both parents and students, and we had some younger siblings come through as well. We also developed and distributed transition welcome packets for our families this year for the first time that were modeled along the handbooks that go along. And we're very proud to say that on the front page of the welcome handbook is our new logo for transition that we were able to make this summer. So at our College of DuPage campus, when you're thinking about getting ready, that actually started back in April, where our case manager there works with the students to make sure that they can apply for COD, make sure their FAFSA paperwork is all in, see if they have to do any placement testing. And then over the last 2 weeks, she was able to give tours to students. She made sure students got student IDs, went to the bookstore with them. We actually have a third of our students this year that are receiving transition services through COD, receiving FAFSA this year. So our facilitator over there made sure that all of their financial aid meetings were set up beforehand. So the first 2 weeks, one of the things that I keep hearing is relationships, and I have to say that is the first thing that we were able to focus on these first couple weeks back in the sites. We saw many of our students meeting for the first time in person. You know, they've talked for 1.5 years in Zoom, and we've seen all this progress of students getting together outside of school on Zoom and being able to advocate and do those things, but to see them in person was amazing. Then we saw students applying these skills that they learned the last year at home and seeing how they could bring it back to the building. You know, things like daily living skills, cooking, laundry, chores, all of those things, home maintenance, being able to transfer those skills, we were able to see. And one of the things that we were really excited about last spring, whenever we were back in the building, is the fact that we have a greenhouse that we rent our space in, and it's through Glenbar. So that gave our students an opportunity during the pandemic to actually get some hands-on vocational training. So we've already started on Monday with our students back at the greenhouse. We've got it up and running. We've got the greenhouse going. We're getting ready for our first fall sale. We're gonna have mums and succulents, I think, for our first fall sale. And then we had students at COD. They were applying for on-campus jobs. We have students that were able to get on-campus jobs at COD. They set up their schedules for tutoring through COD. So they already have their weekly schedule set up prior to school starting, which was wonderful. And then we've continued to plan for open house as well. We're gonna do an in-person open house, but I think like some of the other schools, just kind of make sure that we have enough space for our families, so we're gonna do it kind of on a scheduled basis for our families. But absolutely excited to have them and welcome them in to our open house. Some of the things that we're excited about to continue this year is making those individualized plans for our students that will be aging out at the end of the year. You know, last year whenever we were making these plans, there was a lot of things that wasn't open in the community. So we're making plans, and it was kind of, well, as soon as the community is open back up again, and we're really excited to make these individual plans for our students and our families, and that have the community involved as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all of the principals for their, oh, I'm sorry, we got one more.
Nope.
That's it?
That's it.
No, that was it. I want to thank you all for your intentional and thoughtful transition into the school year, for immediately setting very high standards so our students know what we expect of them, and especially for that focus on relationships and engagement. I think that's going to go a long way to helping our students be successful this year, so thank you.
Okay, yes, so we want to transition to, from the start of the school year to this is 21-22 report.
We don't get to praise anymore? Because that was just, I just want to raise you guys up. It was amazing. It was so nice to hear the hopefulness that, yeah, echoing your message, but thank you. This is why I ran. I know it's why we're all on the school board, to hear that kind of good news. So thank you so much for your work. Sorry, I just said you.
All right, thanks to the team for being out tonight. If we can have the team that's going to present the report on, the update on the 21-22 school year.
All right, so we're here tonight to just talk about where we are with the school. Is this okay, volume-wise?
It's perfect, yeah.
Okay. I want to start with just talking about our safety mitigations. A lot of these things are, again, a reminder, but we don't want to lose sight of the fact that we have a multi-tiered approach and we have lots of layers of mitigations, again, with the purpose of keeping our student and staff population safe. Talking about, masking on all buses and in schools, again, this is mandated. Voluntary shield testing at school, so we're, waiting for that to come online, but again, it's voluntary, but we are reaching out and letting people know that they can sign up. Daily health assessments, again, at home. So families are doing this at home. We're not having you fill out the app again this year, but if you are ill, stay home, right? We need to continue to repeat that mantra. Hand washing and cleaning protocols, again, good hygiene is a key component to what we're doing. Social distancing of 3 feet whenever possible. So again, trying to make sure that we have social distancing in place, but really our primary goal is to make sure that we are having in-person learning in school. And there are going to be times when we can't do 3 feet social distancing because we have in-person learning, and that is the primary focus. So when we cannot do 3 feet, it was because it is important to make sure that we've got in-person learning and the very best in-person instruction. Improved ventilation in the buildings, again, everything up to the standards that have been set. And then providing information about COVID-19 vaccination clinics and making sure that information is readily available to our families and community. Okay?
Okay, you saw a version of this last time at the board meeting, but just to emphasize, voluntary and no cost. Originally when this shield testing was rolled out, it was a tier 1, tier 2, we're the only ones that got it for free, and then the state came back and made it free for everyone in the state, which is a great thing. The saliva test is sometimes affectionately called a spit test. It's actually more accurately a drool test, so there's not actually spitting happening. It's actually holding the vial up and drooling into it, in case that matters. Number 5 here, the portal itself is really nice because it's going to be notifications directly to families and directly to us as a district, as well as to the counties. So that's a great thing. And notice goes out generally between 6 and certainly less than 24 hours after the test is given, which is great. Testing, we now know our scheduled date, September 20th. It'll be the week of September 20th. We're still ironing out some of the details. And the reason for that is we are still collecting responses via PowerSchool right now. So as of this morning, we have just over 1,700 that have opted in out of around 2,500. Now keep in mind that percentage of a little over 70% is a little bit potentially misguided because we're going to have families that haven't logged in because maybe they don't want to participate. So we'll see that percentage likely drop, but at this point, a large percentage have opted in. We are asking parents, families to respond by September 1st. While families can opt in later, we need to know a couple weeks in advance prior to the testing start because there's so many logistics to work out in terms of locations and times and schedules. We have been assigned a partner called MedCall. They're the ones who do all the logistics, the picking up of the tests. They ship us out all the supplies. They bring the laptops and the scanners and do everything other than a couple of minor things. And we need to get those dates scheduled and time scheduled at each building. So over the next couple weeks here, we're kind of knee deep into that process, determining exactly which schools are going to go at what time and what periods. We're trying to avoid all the instructional periods. It's also important to note that we only have, that there's no testing that can happen within an hour of eating or drinking anything. So we're having to work around those time schedules as well. And then lastly, staff are also going to be able to participate in this on a voluntary basis. So once we kind of get a little further down the road on the student side, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have staff enrolling as well. So that's kind of where things stand. MedCall will be hiring at least 6 staff members. And if anyone is listening and interested or knows someone that might be, it's going to pay between $15 and $20 an hour. And certainly reach out to me and I can forward that information directly to MedCall to do those testing. So that's kind of where we're at in the process. And again, a lot will be happening over the next 2 weeks as we coordinate the scheduling.
Thank you, Seth.
So I wanted to go over some of our COVID data. This is available publicly on our dashboard, but I just wanted to kind of talk it through. What we're trying to do on the dashboard this time is to report to the public on a weekly basis the number of people that were issued quarantines on that day. And the quarantine is for positive or being in close contact that is unvaccinated. So the graph on the left, if you're looking at the monitor, that's the quarantine cases. So you could see where each campus was the first week of school and the second week of school. So the first week of school is a line graph that shows you campus by campus how many quarantines. So you could see east, north had a few more than them, south. You can see how that line goes. Now, red is this most recent week, so that's the data that was just posted. So this week we started higher, but then we ended at that lower number. Okay, so you can see where the quarantines go. So that was a date the quarantine was given. It counts as a 1. That's not cumulative every day. Then we're also reporting positive cases. I apologize for that line being cut off. I'm going to work a little bit more on my skills with Google Sheets. I'm sure there's a YouTube video to get a little better, but you can see where it's at the top. It's at the 3, and the red line again is for that second week. First week looked far different. Hard to say that there's a pattern or not there, but we are trying to report those numbers. So we'll keep adding to that, trying to get that visual representation so the public has a clear picture of what's going on in the schools. This is a line graph that we've all been quite familiar with because I've been pulling this one up and reporting it from the Illinois Department of Public Health. So you can see where that trend line is. So the cases out of 100,000, sorry to get closer, bad eyes, 139 over 100. So that's where it's keep continuing to go up. And over here on the right, it's the positivity with the threshold. We haven't hit that 8% threshold. We're at 5.5, but that one is also trending up. So we're anxious to be able to report that week when we see it turning the other way. But right now we haven't attained that. I want to point out that we've been looking at this line graph from the Illinois Department of Public Health for a very long time. And the other piece I used to present afterwards was the county's health department designation of where are we? We mild, moderate, right, high. They stopped issuing those in June of 2021, so I think it was the 21st or 20th that was last updated, and they indicated they will not be going back to that. What they have been reporting though is the designation each county has been given by the CDC. So it used to be IDPH does your data, county does your designation as to what is that subjective review. If you go on the DuPage County Health Department website, they do rank us as high submission rate right now. But if you dive into the detail of that, they say that's coming from the CDC. So I did want to start acclimating the board to reports that are coming from the CDC because that's the one feeding that it's just changed a bit. So this is what the line graphs look like on those same two indicators. So the indicator hasn't changed, but the look of it has. We're still, on the upper one is the cases out of 100,000. They're reporting 134, except that date is more recent. The CDC appears to be updating every 2 to 3 days, so it's just not quite as in the rears as the IDPH. But the general trend lines are somewhat comparable. And then positivity is right below it, it's at 6.07. Again, more recent, and the state had this county at 5.5, so it could be the date difference. Just want to start shifting over to this, because this will be our direct feed as we monitor. So I do want to start switching over and talking about in this setting and watching the CDC's breakdown for the county. Okay. Supports for illness or quarantine. Are you going to take that? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to speak briefly about the supports that we have for our students who are ill or at home in quarantine. First and foremost, it's important to note that absences are not counted against students. They're not punitive. Teachers have the opportunity to evaluate work requirements and modify them as appropriate as needed for the teacher's discretion. In addition, student work is posted on Schoology to access remotely. This includes any type of lectures that are recorded, any other video support or enhancement that teachers are providing their students, that will be accessible via Schoology. We also have evening tutoring available virtually. This will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. We're going to kick this off this Thursday for any students who are in quarantine to receive additional support. And for every other student, the target launch date is the week after Labor Day. We also have our counselors and related services personnel who are available, of course, via phone and virtually as needed. And of course, our timelines for work to be completed are flexible given the student's unique circumstances situation. And then finally, as students return back to in-person, we have tutoring, and you heard from our principals a plethora of additional supports for all of our students to be able to access. And I want to emphasize that now we are moving back to this wonderful thing of active learning. And I want to talk a little bit about what that is, because it's really something special. So we go to the next slide. Thank you, Peg. This involves hands-on learning. These are labs. These are outside computer labs, visiting libraries, collaborating with others, engaging in debate, Socratic seminars, creating art, performing. And so when we think about students who are ill at home, oftentimes it's better for them to engage in learning activities that are designed specifically for them and their specific circumstance and their specific need from home, than as opposed to passively watching active learning in the classroom. And to elicit this point a little bit, I didn't realize we were going to see so many wonderful pictures of active learning from principals. So we have a few more photos. We can go to the first slide. So of course, this is applicable in PE. Of course, this is badminton, but also marching band is a photo from Wes. And if we go to the next slide, We have, what is that called? I'm not making a blank. It's not, telescopes are gonna be this week, but that is, observatory, I'm sorry. It's an observatory that we actually have our students have access to, and they use that, and they're gonna be using telescopes this week. So these pictures were taken last week by our teams. And then of course, one of my favorite as a former chemistry teacher myself, chemistry labs that are really hard to do remotely, but really good to do in person because we're actually mixing real chemicals, measuring things out, using Bunsen burners, etc. If we go to our next slide, so this, again, hands-on, right? So this is our culinary classes. We have art using a photo booth where Lightbox, where they're taking pictures of ceramic artwork. And then the last picture there is a picture out west where freshman students are getting situated to the library and the wonderful resources that they have there for those students. So we're really proud to be able to offer all of these active learning opportunities for our students. We're also proud to be able to offer all the support at a very high level to all of our students who need it.
So Melissa Creech couldn't be here due to family illness, so she asked me to speak about what Patrick just spoke about because I delegated to him. But I just want to comment, really, if the teachers were just teaching the content and the information was going one way, I think streaming would work, but we're really deep into the art of designing, engaging what we call cognitively complex learning situations. You heard Dr. Miguel talk about it. We have the profile of the graduate competencies we're trying to integrate. And really, the student needs to be there, right? There is some lectures and some meetings and some note-taking, but then there's activities that take place that really are about these transfer skills. And it really would not work as we have. It's not ideal, but it is good supplementary, temporary, short-term opportunities for learning, as Dr. Miguel described, where we have Schoology, which has some of the material. We have many teachers have the videos and obviously ancillary materials and then the tutoring. So, and we hope to get those kids right back to school, just like if they have the flu. They're out for maybe a week, hopefully not more than 2, and they're right back in. So we feel good about that. This is the trend, just so you know. Most high school districts are not having, as we check with our peers, the streaming regular, and we just feel it's the best as we journey through the semester and do what's best for our kids.
Thank you, everyone.
A couple questions.
Go ahead, John.
I just want to make sure I heard the number right. So on the voluntary testing, we've had 1,700 opt-in. So it's about 21% of the population at this point.
Yeah, that's correct. Just over 17, yep.
The assumption for me is that everyone is in Schoology and they would have made this choice, or do you expect?
So this is Power School.
Sorry, Power School.
It's just not picked up much.
It's not big enough, okay. Yeah, so this is Power School. One of the challenges is, we're doing weekly communication out to principals. Thank you to them for doing that. We're actually seeing really good responses after they send them out. But for some parents or guardians, they're not logging in to Power School as much now because the school year started and they've gotten through that process. So that's kind of one of the issues that we're really pushing out and trying to communicate to log in and to get set up through that process. So at this point, we've made multiple communications. I think 3 or 4 now. We'll continue to do that week by week, but that's where we're at right now.
On the line graph that you showed, that would not have had any contact tracing trended in. In other words, that's like the outcome of contact tracing and saying, okay, we have 2 people that we know we need to quarantine, right? It doesn't say that, we had 50 that we had to go through the process and identify, right?
Right, so the line graph will reveal how many cases we were aware of and then how many quarantines. So on some days at one campus, you might see 1 positive case, 1 quarantine. That would then be the same person, right? If it's 1 positive case and 2, then you might assume the 2. But in that 1 to 2, it could have been 10, but the 8 others are asymptomatic and vaccinated.
All right, I know you and I talked about it this week, Dave, I'm still a little queasy about the not live streaming. I mean, I get you wouldn't live stream physical education or something active. When this whole thing started in March, right, that whole putting things up and having kids access it, was probably the least effective approach. It was one that was based on nobody knew what was going on, so it's not a criticism, but we learned from it. We went to live streaming. Certainly don't want to go back to half the class being at home, half the class being in the building. So we're back. That's a good thing. I still think that if a teacher wants to voluntarily allow a kid in on a lecture where they think it makes sense, that we're set up to do it, and it should happen. And just leave it up to the teacher to make that decision if we think that it's the right thing for the kid, because I worry 10 days is a long time to be out. I know my kids, if they had to be out for 2 weeks, would have freaked out, so I don't know how other kids feel about it, but I don't know kids.
Yeah, we have a year of students working at home, and we have had a good fair lead time since last spring when the state kind of gave us these parameters. So we feel very confident that with, again, this is not long-term illness, this is a week or two. And this is if a student had flu. We've done this for years, and now we're more prepared than ever. With supplementary materials that will tap in right back in within a week or two.
I was just gonna add, there's nothing prohibiting the teacher from recording a part of a lecture that's gonna benefit a student to be able to engage and work at home. That is different than live streaming, which is to say that we're tailoring the entire classroom activities and discussion to be engaged in virtually. That's something markedly different than saying, like, I'm going to record a part of a lecture to help students understand particular math concepts so they can stay on track. So nothing preventing teachers from doing that, because that's kind of practical, and teachers do it already.
Yeah, I totally understand the numbers right now, 2, 3, 4 kids, right? So it's, 1 or 2 classrooms impacted in a building.
Actually, maybe 10 classrooms, they go to 5 or 6 classes a day, so you'd be talking about 10 classrooms.
Yeah,
just the 2
10
classes.
classrooms being impacted where, it's you don't have to tailor the class to the 1 or 2 people that are quarantined, but just give them the option to participate.
You see, the problem is the class is tailored toward that engaging activity. The student at home is just going to be more frustrated. That's going to often happen. They cannot, the activity is presented in such a way they have this cognitively ambitious task that the child at home may not be able to be, to participate in because they're at home, and it's going to be frustration. I just think it's hard to recreate what's going on in a class with a student at home.
It's not gonna be perfect, that's for sure. I still feel it'll be a little better, so I'll ask that we continue to monitor that. Let's get some feedback, and continue to do the best for this population. That it's not their fault. They're out.
Well, I would agree with John that it might be good to do an assessment so that we can kind of know what, how it feels to students, but I also agree that it cannot be, you can't inconsistently present material. Our goal is to be in school, and we have vaccine now, which we didn't have a year ago. Last year we were separated by in-school and remote. We're past that now, right? And so our focus has to be in rich, in-person learning. As long as we are following the mitigations, if it were up to me, everyone's vaccine status would be known. We'd be testing every week, everybody, because our goal should be to stay in school. I would like to go without the mask, but, I want to stay in school. So I think we're a little bit different, and I think because of that, we want a rich in-school environment. We are gonna have kids that are gonna get sick, they should be allowed to be sick, this is not just the flu. We don't know how it would manifest on a large scale with this population. And so we have to allow kids to be sick, and when they're well enough, to take in that rich remote learning. But keeping those two things separate, I think, is really important for consistency of program.
So I'd just like to make sure we continue to monitor it. Let's get some feedback from the teachers. If I'm giving 10 lectures or, maybe over the course of that period, there are a couple of times where I can bring the student in. We have the technology to do it, and let's just make sure we monitor it. The numbers are very low right now, but, we are in a system where, if we want to make sure we help every kid, right? And not just if the numbers are low. So I really just want to make sure we're conscious of that and we're evaluating this as we go through this.
John, I agree, we have to be conscious of it, I think everyone has been. We've really looked at, last year, teachers had to redesign their lessons so that they could go remote. This year, it's they wanted to be actively engaging students, but I agree with you, we're all concerned about kids who are absent. One thing I would like to point out is if someone's really sick, they do not want to sit there and live stream throughout the whole day, every day while they're gone. So you've got a difficulty, if someone's truly so ill that they're out of school, they may not be able to do the live streaming each day. I think that we can keep monitoring and see where we're going, but we're pretty much devoted that it's gonna be in-person learning for the year.
Yeah, absolutely, and I support that. We all support that, right? We're back, and we saw the enthusiasm and all the great work. My assumption, which may be a little different than yours, is a lot of these kids that are quarantined are not gonna be really, really sick and ill. They're gonna be a result of, I was in contact, I gotta take the time, maybe I don't have symptoms, right? Most of these kids are not gonna be.
But we do have a
We
solution.
don't know, we have a solution for them,
We have a solution.
and we've actually increased our supports for students who are ill. So we
Let's
do
just
address that.
monitor it. I mean, I get where we're going, and let's monitor it. And I know you guys will, so thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you all for that presentation. Is there any new business, board members? Or board member requests?
I actually have a request. I would like for us to look at, now that we have Pfizer, being fully supported by the FDA, I would like to look at mandating vaccine for teachers. And maybe we even look at it for students. We know that employers can mandate and have a legal authority to mandate for their workers. I'd like to look at it for this worker population and look at the legalities around that, and also look at it as a potential for students.
I think we can look into that. I don't know if we would have that jurisdiction, but it's worth finding out about.
Yeah.
So we'll check into that and get back to you.
So is that something we're taking to Todd then? Is that the direction you would take? Or?
I don't know if it would be Todd or maybe Janet
We
can
have,
answer. I don't know personally what the legal requirements are for that right now.
Yeah, the news today, obviously, has been vetted by a variety of organizations, including our attorney team, so we'll hear from our attorneys. Their opinion, we listen to IV.A, our local department, and we'll report out. On that question.
Loud.
Anything else for board? All right, then we are going to move into general public participation. You again are asked to fill out a public participation form and to identify yourself at the beginning of your remarks. And just as before, personal complaints are not to be handled here. They should be handled privately with appropriate Glenbard representatives. And no, again, it is not our practice to respond or answer to comments at this time. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? In fact, if you'd all just hand in your sheets, Mrs. Gastel can call you up then. It'd be a little bit more efficient.
So first up, Ms. Jennifer Benisi. Thank you. And Trevor.
Thank you.
and up after her will be Hannah Moffett.
Okay, my name is Jennifer Venisi. I would like to address this no live streaming thing. My overarching question is, what does it hurt? How on earth does it hurt anybody to live stream these classes for these kids that are gonna be at home? You've got the equipment, you've got the teachers trained to use it. It costs you $0 and 0 cents, and it might help somebody. The excuses I'm hearing are, they don't even make sense. Nobody is asking teachers to tailor lessons to the few kids that are at home. All that we are asking is that the kids be allowed to listen and not even participate. Listen to what's going on, hear the same thing that their classmates are hearing, hear the same expectations, the same descriptions, the same methodologies. What does it hurt? Even if it doesn't help greatly, what on earth does it hurt to do that? And why won't you? Just because nobody else is doing it or a few others are doing it, why do we have to sink to the bottom with everybody else? The excuse that people at home will be too sick to learn is laughable, because we know most under this circumstance, under quarantine, will not be too sick. They'll be sitting at home because somebody else tested positive, they feel fine, and they'll be stir crazy. The other benefit, besides just keeping up and not feeling alienated by their school, is they can stay on a regular schedule for 2 weeks while they're sitting at home, probably feeling well. They will be on the same bell schedule as the kids in school. That in and of itself is valuable. And I've heard a lot of around saying, oh, it wasn't that great last year, kids tune out to the live stream. If they're only out for 2 weeks, it's a lot different than being out for a year. They've been in school, they're more engaged going into the quarantine. They want to keep up. They haven't been staring at a screen for 4 months at this point. So it would be, I think, a lot more beneficial than any of you guys are giving it credit for being. I just don't understand what the harm is in letting these kids participate in the classes that their parents are paying for. It's just mean. That's what it is. You're being mean to a subset of kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Jen.
Hi, my name is Hannah Moffett, and I'm a junior at Glenbard West. Many community members and Glenbard parents, including my own, have questioned District 87's updated grading practices. There's concern that Glenbard is making it too easy to succeed in school, and I wanted to give my own thoughts as a student regarding this issue. I would like to begin by saying that academics at any Glenbard school are never easy. Glenbard West has provided me with a plethora of demanding classes that amount to a very rigorous schedule. Additionally, those classes are taught by teachers who have high expectations for their students and grade assignments fairly and thoroughly. The misconception that students can slack off and still do well is completely false. The extra opportunity to demonstrate learning through extended due dates on homework and retakes or redos on tests encourages students like myself to truly understand what has been taught in class, rather than just hastily moving on to the next unit without mastering the previous material. I want to express my appreciation to Glenbard for updating their grading practices to promote and reflect students' learning, as well as offering students more chances to succeed. Finally, I want to assure parents and community members that from my experience thus far, Glenbard has maintained their tradition of being a district that challenges students and holds them to an exceptionally high standard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Joe Orsolini, and then Derek Crenshaw.
Hi, Joe Orsolini. I'm the parent of a couple Glenbard South students. I also have a business, college-age planners here in the community, and I'm also a past president of the Chamber of Commerce and current treasurer of that, so I'm speaking with a couple different voices here. My son, who's a senior, got a notice from the school talking about the College 101 class, and unfortunately, it's after school, and he has a couple of mandatory commitments through sports that he can't go to the class. So I figured, hey, no problem, they'll probably videotape it or play it somewhere. I was kind of, and it also addressed, hey parents, this is for you guys. I was kind of surprised that there was no live stream of it because it was after school. There was no videotaping of it after school. So I would really encourage, I don't mean to piggyback on this discussion, but I really encourage you to take advantage of some of these things. I work with a lot of different high schools, and a lot of schools have this stuff, formatted out there for people to hear this stuff. Every library I've done a Zoom presentation on the last 2 years has me sign off to put this information out there, my information. So I would encourage, take advantage of the technology that you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on, make this stuff available to parents. One other quick note, didn't know it was Principal's Night. One of the things, if I had Principal Santee's ear, I was going to tell her, hey, let's develop some more school spirit at Glenbard South. So I was amazed last week, pleasantly surprised, when my 2 boys said, and I asked, how's the principal doing? She said, she's great. She really seems to be developing a lot of school spirit there. So kudos to her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Derek Crenshaw, teacher and a parent and a taxpayer in the district. First, I want to start out with the good news. Some people say that we come and just talk about negative stuff. I had a talk with a person about cultural practices of Lombard South or District 87. So real quick, at South, 2010, we had 9 out of 39 kids in AP class. Now we have 30 out of 68. 20 more kids being pushed. You can look for yourself in this book, a lot of positive programs in here. This book also proves my point that we don't need equity because most of these programs were developed without equity and courageous conversation. And that's what I'm here, and that's why I'm here after 22 years. I never came here before, but after 22 years, I'm here because I had to go through the courageous conversation training with a fellow teacher, or actually several fellow teachers, and their disgust and the way it made them feel is why I'm here talking about this. Question to the board. How is this teacher training going to improve Glenbard reading and math proficiency? And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't. It just divides people. Equity is about equal outcomes, not equal opportunities. This is not Martin Luther King's dream for America. Why doesn't this D87 booklet just say equality and belonging? Okay, equity comes from CRT. Short history of CRT. It was theorized by Derek Bell, a college professor, and he got his theory from a professor, Herbert Marcuse, who was a German Marxist who fled Germany to the United States before World War II. His theory was called critical theory, which comes from the readings of Marx and Engels. Basically, CRT substitutes Marxist class warfare terminology, the bourgeoisie capitalist with white oppressors, and the proletariat worker with black oppressed. CRT, or whatever you wish to call it, uses false data and rejects historical black achievements. Pacific Educational Group, Courageous Conversations, uses so much poor data. In my opinion, they're stealing money from the taxpayer. Lastly, what I stand for. I'm for inclusion, diversity, outreach, and equality. My teams and students are told day one they are all Raiders. I don't see race when I grade or pick football positions for my teams. This training is taking us back to a time where people assume something based on a person's color, backwards. Now, we all know what happens when you assume things. Just break the word up in 3 parts. How about the board and the administrators read Thomas Sowell's Discrimination and Disparities? It'll help explain a lot of stuff. And then real quick, I'm just gonna bring up a school called Crenshaw High School in LA. Their math.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Their math reading.
Donna, would you call the next person, please?
Cedric Crenshaw, then Linda Samuda. Oops.
I just want to give you
Cedric Crenshaw, then Linda Samuda.
Sorry.
Good evening, I'm Sandra Crenshaw. I'd like to have another courageous conversation about race tonight. That's the anti-white racist teacher indoctrination that this district has been paying for the past 5 years. I would like to interject a little counter narrative, just like I did the last time I was here. I challenged the board and the administration to read White Guilt by Shelby Steele. If you've read White Fragility, like I have, read White Guilt. Have a real conversation. Tonight I'd like to introduce Discrimination and Disparities by Thomas Sowell, known economist who's written over 40 books, world famous. Let's see what he has to say. Disparities do not imply discrimination, nor is discrimination automatically excluded. It's one of many possibilities, each of which has to establish its claims with evidence rather than being an automatic presumption. However, in this district, you teach anti-racism, which is racism, which automatically presumes racism for any racial disparity. Morally neutral factors such as birth order, geographic settings, technological advances, or demographic and cultural differences are among the many reasons why economic and social outcomes so often fail to fit the preconception of equal or comparable results. Yet, Ibram X. Kendi says that the only reason people may attribute Black failure to something other than racism must be internalized racist ideas. But our emotional responses tell us nothing about the causal weight of different factors. However much these emotional responses may shape political crusades and government policies. Those who seem to be promising an end to existing disparities as a result of whatever policies they advocate may be promising what cannot be delivered, regardless of the particular policies being advocated. Moreover, the clash between numerical goals fervently pursued and the repeatedly frustrated attempts to reach those goals is not without social consequences, including dire consequences for society as a whole, and perhaps especially dire for the less fortunate, who suffer most when social order breaks down amid heady crusades like anti-racism. So, in effect, anti-racism puts you in a box because all you can attribute racial disparities to is racism. I challenge this board, I challenge the administration, I challenge anyone who likes having a courageous conversation about race. Read Discrimination and Disparities by Thomas Sowell and have a real conversation about race. And lastly, anyone who says that opposition to the anti-racist racism being perpetuated in District 87 should be ignored is showing that they have been indoctrinated.
Speaker is Linda Smith.
Good evening. Again, Linda Samuda. I had a daughter go through Glenbard West, and I'm a Glenbard East graduate myself, and I'm now a taxpayer in Glen Ellen. And I would like to just mention the passage of the sex ed bill by, well, not passage, but the signing of Senate Bill 818 by Governor Pritzker on Friday. And that means that school districts are going to be forced to follow the National Sexuality Education Standards. And I'd like to just kind of read from this identity standard, I guess, from the NSES, and some samples are, and this is by the end of 12th grade, students should be able to differentiate between biological sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity and expression, distinguish between sexual orientation, sexual behavior, and sexual identity, analyze the influence of peers, media, family, society, religion, and culture on the expression of gender, sexual orientation, and identity. The religion discussion is somewhat concerning to think about what will be discussed in a classroom and what and how the religion will be analyzed when a religion that teaches men are men and women are women, and there is no way that they can interchange how they will be perceived. Will they be called hateful or intolerant religion? So we gotta keep an eye on that. It also says they will explain how to promote safety, respect, awareness, and acceptance, advocate for school policies and programs that promote dignity and respect for all. And when it mentions advocate for school policies, that makes one wonder, who is the person that's teaching the kids what kind of policies these kids should be advocating for? We know that one-sided viewpoints will probably be pushed on these children in a form of indoctrination to continue that. And so it's really important that the school board knows as well that you can decline to participate in this program. And parents, you have the option to opt your children out of the sex ed program. So please research that if any of this bothers you. And that's just a sampling. It is a really disgusting bill that's coming to our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who's ready?
Susie Warden.
Hi, my name is Susie Gordon. I have 4 boys that have been through here, one's still going through. And, you know, as I sit here, I think our main goal with the board, with the teachers, is to graduate amazing kids that push themselves, that need to have good grades, that want to do good, that want to have great math scores. Right now, we're looking at a 44 and 45% of the kids are graduating at grade level with math and English. And we're worried about putting masks. We're worried about keeping the masks over their nose. We're worried about, should everybody be vaccinated? Mitigation, is someone within 3 feet? Oh my gosh, the PCR tests don't work. They're not even differentiating. Is it a virus that we've already seen? Is it a virus that we have? Is it COVID? Nobody knows because they haven't isolated the COVID virus. So we're spending time and money and people's, you know, tax money on all this mitigation, and we really don't know what we're fighting. And yet today, this whole meeting has been about how are we going to do it? Do we allow these children that are getting quarantined for who knows what reason? Do we allow them a stupid camera so they can participate and just maybe listen to what they're missing? Because who knows what they have, a little cold virus? We know that there's therapeutics. We know there's zinc. There's vitamin C, vitamin D. Instead of spending no money on these tests, why don't we give them a little pill box and say, take your vitamins, kids, let's go have a great year. Let's go party, let's have a great time. But no, we're worried about masks and all this other stuff. So if we could kind of help that would be amazing. And as my friend, the Crenshaws, they had about 60 people in Wheaton, and they really educated us on this whole equity thing. And there's so many different names in here. We talk about equity, we talk about inclusion, we have conversation, culturally responsive, we have white supremacy, but really what we're doing is we're segregating people. And you know, back in the days of 70s, we didn't have segregation as far as, you know, hey, this guy's black, you don't want to talk to him. Here, let's put these people and this little group, these people, let's put them all together. Let's have a great time. Let's enjoy everybody's, you know, color. Let's black, white, who cares what they're doing, what they look like. So from niche.com, LA Crenshaw High School has a 14% reading proficiency and 3% math. Derek Bell would say this was caused by systemic racism. That theory fails because Larry Elder graduated from Crenshaw High and is running for California governor. So,
I am closing public
work on grades.
participation. And do I have a motion for adjournment? Donna, would you call the roll?
E.B.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Kenwood.
Yes.
Mueller.
Yes.
DeLaRosa. Yes. Weinstock.
Yes. Meeting is adjourned.
It's